How to be the presenter whom the audience won't mess with much. Very often you will have in your audience someone who wants to challenge almost everything that you have to say. You almost guarantee to have at least one whenever you give a presentation, sometimes several if your material is controversial or your audience large enough. There's no definite way to spot them ahead of time, so you'll have to be prepared to deal with them as they come. Who knows why? The motivation behind this individual's action might be anything. Perhaps he, A, genuinely thought that you were wrong and wanted simply to correct an error in your presentation. B, wanted to prove himself as being one up on you. C, just wanted to be heard. In my experience, I have come to realize that the first reason is the most common explanation for this behavior. And as I have noted in a different blog post, more often than not, our audience is there because they genuinely seek to hear what we have to say. Not that it makes life any easier for us. Sadly, however noble be these individuals' intentions, it does not make life any simpler for us presenters. Being challenged, corrected, or proven wrong in front of an audience can be pretty embarrassing and unnerving. It could also possibly erode whatever equity that we have managed to build with our audience up till that point. And that in turn could seriously impact how receptive the audience is to whatever else we have to say. Together, these could dent our confidence levels. We need to be able to handle ourselves effectively in such situations. And we might also need to try and lessen, if not completely eliminate, such situations from occurring in the first place. Why some presenters get picked on more than others. Lessons from school. Do you remember how in school it was always the smaller guys who got bullied? The bigger guys, those who looked like you couldn't mess with them, were rarely, if ever, subjected to the same torture that the smaller built among us were. Well, my own experience as a student of the science of presentation skills has taught me that what is true about the school ground is also true of business presentations. Some presenters get ribbed a lot more than others. And while the reasons for this could be many, one thing that I've experienced myself and I've noticed in others is this. Those who appear less confident, knowledgeable, and seemingly less in control of the presentation get challenged a lot more than those who appear to be more in control and confident. So, how not to be picked on? As presenters, we have got to make ourselves look as big as we can be. By that, I do not mean boorish and arrogant, but that we need to appear supremely confident about our content, about ourselves, as well as appear to be in complete control of the proceedings. Here are just 3 tips on how you can make yourself appear bigger. 1. Mind your language, your body language. You want people to know, or at least be led into believing, that you are supremely confident and not to be messed with. And here is how you can send out such a signal. A. Start your presentation from the middle of your speaking area and not to the side. Blank your slide out and stand right in the center of your speaking area. This shows supreme confidence. B. If you're on a stage, then ditch the podium and come front center of the stage. I know you have to work your slides, but you can manage that using a slide clicker or a remote and present a view in PowerPoint. C. Maintain an open and upright posture. D. Smile. If you are scared, you would not be smiling. You want people to think that you are not intimidated or overawed by the situation. E. Hold your hands clasped lightly at the level of your diaphragm. This will prop your shoulders up and make you appear more confident. F. Maintain eye contact with your audience. G. Use gestures to emphasize key points in your presentation. H. Manage your flow well. Walk the width of the room or stage. Walk around the room if you can. Only ensure that your gait is unhurried and deliberate. Walk around like you own the room. These practices make you appear confident, in control, and unintimidated by anybody in the audience. It makes you appear bigger. And that, by itself, will cause a good number of potential troublemakers to think a dozen times before taking you on. A second input on how not to be picked on by your audience. Ensure that your content is spot on. Now, mere presentation ability and bravado will only take you so far. With the wealth of information available to them today, many in your audience will have a fair grasp of the subject. My experience has taught me as much. So, if you think you can simply mouth some nonsense in style and get away with it, then you better think again. Well, actually, you might sometimes, but by and large, it pays to bear one truth in mind. Your audience is no fool. If your content is irrelevant, shallow, and poorly structured, then most often your audience will see through you. So, focus on getting your content right. Also, anticipate and prepare your responses to questions that might come your way. A third tip on how to prevent your audience members from picking on you. Get endorsed. This tip will not work if you are presenting to an audience who already knows you. However, if you are presenting to an audience who is not very familiar with you, then have someone, maybe a host or a colleague, to lay out your credentials before your audience. Ensure that this individual actually mentions your expertise in the subject of your presentation, your experience in that area, and your past successes as a professional and a speaker. This is going to make you appear like you are a big guy, like you are one of the foremost experts in your field, and not many people in their right mind would want to mess with such an individual. Hey, who would want to take on a big guy? If your audience sees you as an expert, if your content is spot on, if you are prepared to respond to queries from your audience, and you are projecting supreme confidence, then who would want to mess with you? Bottom line, project yourself to be the big guy, and you will have far fewer experiences of being challenged by your audience. Do you remember school?